good evening, everyone. I trust you are doing well. I'm really happy to have you. And we just want to wait a few more minutes and have you all get on and get ready. Good evening again, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday Live Talk Show, where we are still thriving and striving to be and to become a better version of ourselves. And in all of that, I want to remind you that mindset is everything. Go right ahead and start sharing on your page so that others can see that we are on. This evening, we are going to be having a wonderful evening, and as we focus on self sabotage. Self sabotage is like a game of mental tug of war. It is the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, where the subconscious mind always eventually wins. It is said that procrastination is the hands down of our favorite form of self sabotage. Self sabotage erodes your self confidence and self esteem, and it affects your relationship with others. With every field attempt to do the thing you want to do, but what happens is that you keep proving to yourself that you can't or you shouldn't do it. I want to share with you an awesome life tip. It says, when things start going really well, it's common to self sabotage. We get used to a certain level of finances, love, or success and connection. And then what happens is that we start pushing or we push our path that is not common or uncommon to do that thing. And a lot of times we realize that that is what happens to us because sometimes we are used to a certain level of life, we may feel guilty or we stand in our own way of becoming what we are and what we were created to do. And as we are thriving and striving to be and to become a better version of ourselves, these are some of the things that we really want to address. We really want to address some of these things because when we look at even what the word of the Lord says, it says that we exceedingly abundantly above all that we can even ask or think. We are created fearfully and wonderfully made. We are above and not beneath. We are God created us to be our best, and that is what we want to be. And we realize that at most times that we self sabotage our own self. This evening, my co-host, my guest is Dedrick L. Moone. He's an author. He's the author of the unexpected journey, fire and gold. It is the journey of a single father who risked it all to protect and provide for his daughter. Follow along and learn how he survived brokenness, criminal prosecution, discrimination, reprisal, and unemployment to ultimately come out as gold. Wow. He is a philanthropist and an international motivational speaker, a podcast host, a small business owner, and a single father. He loves to see others be their best self. So, his life's mission is to create a positive and fun impact wherever he goes. Help me welcome this evening, Dedrick L. Moone. Ooh,
Hi,
how are you doing this evening? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for that warm introduction.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, how has your day been today?
It was a bit hectic trying to get prepared for the interview and trying to do work and manage my daughter and her homework and stuff too. But, hey, at least I can do it. So I count it all joy.
Okay, so how old is your daughter?
She's 13.
Okay, so how has that journey of being a single father?
It's fairly easy now because she's more independent than she was when she was much younger. She's less needy than she was, but it always comes with the struggles. I mean, some of the struggles were, trying to figure out how they could relate to one another, and, and this was initially. Another one was trying to figure out and learn how to do her hair. Another
Oh,
trying to, as she's grown older, having a conversation with her about boys and hormones and things of that nature. And then it progressed from there to, having had and things of that nature. All of these things were pretty traumatic for me. And it was funny because I would try and push her off of my mom and say, "Hey, do you want to talk with me about these things, or do you want to talk with grandma about it?" And she would always choose me. I'm like, man, why me? Um, try having to take her bra shopping and things of that nature. Those were all a struggle. And if you don't mind me sharing a story, to start things off, I think it'll be good for viewers to hear.
yes, I think you would be good. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I got custody when she was 2 years old. And I'm sorry, she was about 2.5 years old. So this was in June of 2010. It was about 2 weeks before Father's Day. And she might have been about 4 or 5 at this time. And she came to me and she uh, wanted me to play dolls with her. And I said, I'm not playing dolls with you. I don't know how to do that. Go on somewhere, play by yourself, use your imagination. And I was watching TV or doing whatever at the time. And she headed back upstairs and she basically went back upstairs like almost like a dog with his tail between his legs or whatever. And I recognized that look because I have had that look on my face before myself. And I had to look on my face myself because I grew up in a single parent home, and I would try and get my mother to do things with me or to try to take an interest in the things that I like to do, and my mom would kind of more or less shoo me away too. And I said, "Oh man, you messed up. You've done it now." And as she sat upstairs, I thought to myself, "How can I go about fixing this? And what can I do?" So I thought about it for a few minutes and I came up with an idea. And I said, yeah, I was telling the truth. I don't know how to play dolls. But what I do know how to do is this. So I had some action figures that, you've got in like McDonald's meals or stuff, things of that nature. And I said, her, Haley, go grab that Superman and Batman toy in my bottom drawer in my bedroom, bring them downstairs. So she got him and she brought him downstairs. And I said, think, think, think. What can you do? And I said, okay, I got it. I'll blend what I like to do with what she likes to do. And what I told her to do was set up a scene or whatever, or something that's fun to you. And then I'm going to mess it all up, like how boys do. So she said she wanted to have a fashion show. So I said, okay, well, since you're going to have a fashion show, I'm going to make these action figures the judges in the fashion show. Okay. Now follow me now. This sounds ridiculous, but you're going to laugh at the end. Okay. So the bad guys, which are the villains, were sitting at the end of the stage. And as the ladies were walking down the catwalk, they were catcalling and everything. Woo, yippee, all that stuff. And they had backstage passes to the fashion show or whatever. So after the fashion show ended, they went back there. They met the ladies, and when they met the ladies, they wanted to be friends with them. The ladies weren't about that. They said, "Y'all are thugs. We don't want to hang out with y'all. Go on somewhere." So they said, "You're right with thugs, and because we thugs, we gonna do thug things." So they kidnapped the ladies and took them to the dark side of town, you know, the ghetto and all that stuff. And in the ghetto, all the lights were out. There were dragons and all kind of stuff, you know, like dragons and moats and all that stuff. So they took them back to their bad guy castle. And when they got them back to their bad guy castle, they locked them up in a dungeon. And they told them that they couldn't come out of the dungeon until they agreed to be their friends. So every day they would come back and visit the princesses and everything and ask them did they want to be their friends. They would say, no, y'all stink, y'all are mean. We'll never be y'all's friends. And they said, okay, well, we'll see y'all later. So every day this would go on and go on. So finally, one day, Superman was flying. He had flew off the Metropolis. Sorry, not Metropolis, Krypton. He came back. And when he was coming back, he accidentally landed in the dark side of town. When he landed in the dark side of town, he saw what was going on, and he said there were too many bad guys for him to handle by himself. So he went back to the bright side of town, got the Justice League. They came over to the dark side of town, beat the bad guys up, saved the princesses, and took the princesses back to the fashion show. So when they took the princesses back to the fashion show, they did it all over again. But this time, the good guys were sitting at the end of the stage being the judges. And they were being nice and respectable, clapping and everything. Good job, ladies. Good job. Praising them and everything instead of the cat call like. So then, same thing. They had backstage passes. And with their backstage passes, when they went backstage, they were being nice and respectable and everything. And the lady said, thank you guys so much for saving us. Y'all are our heroes or whatever. And then they went and jumped in the Batmobile and they drove off and they got married and lived happily ever after. Man, my daughter was beaming from ear to ear as I finished up this story. And I said, you just figured it out. You figured out how y'all can bond and make sense of it. You have to merge your world and what you like to do with what she likes to do, and you create the commonality there. Well, here it is 11 years later, and we still have that exact same bond. So on Sunday nights, we watch Batwoman together. When Supergirl was on, we would watch Supergirl together. We watch Green Arrow together. We watch Wonder Woman together. We watch all of this together. And that is our bond, or the place that we found that we can meet in the middle is through superheroes and the Barbies or whatever. And that's not to say that I don't like watch the Barbie movies and things, but it's more, the Barbie stuff is more enjoyable for her than it is for me. I'm just there and I'll enjoy it because she enjoys it. But the place where we get the shared enjoyment is in between the superheroes, whatever, because some superheroes are women, some are men, and that's where we found our bond. And once I found that bond between us, that made life a lot easier for me.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. I tell you, hello to those that are on. Happy to have you. Awesome, and you hear Daddy sharing with us the bonding story, a father and a daughter bonding. I tell you, it is awesome and incredible. And as we are here this evening to share and to talk about self sabotage, some of the things that held us back as individuals. And we want to find out if we sometimes are, in fact, our own worst enemy. Oh my God, I tell you. So we're gonna, our highlight tonight is that are you getting in the way of your own success? Being your own worst enemy? And are you missing important deadlines? Or do you make excuses to avoid promotion? As we as we spoke before we get on set this evening, Dietrich let me know that hey, once I was like that, but I found the light, I've seen the light, and I'm gonna let him share with us tonight all of those things, how he has overcome and how just what he has to say on self sabotage. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have several stories about self sabotage. One of them was actually me getting custody of my daughter, but I won't share that one yet. I'll start off from an earlier level. So I grew up in a single parent home and with my mother, and my mom worked three jobs so that I could have everything that I needed and most of what I wanted. And so for the most part, my mom was never home. And when she was home, she didn't really have time for me. And about my dad, I didn't know anything about my dad until I was 16 years old. Um, so generally speaking, depending on what time of night my mom got off, I would end up spending a lot of time with my grandmother. And not knowing the story of my dad or, my truth or whatever created a depression in me, depression, anger, confusion, and things of that nature. And I can't speak to like exactly how old I was at the time, but I will say theoretically, in practical theory, I was probably about 7. And these feelings lasted in me until I was about 27, 28 years old. I'll get there shortly. But anyway, when my mom was, as I said, when she was off work, she really didn't spend any time with me. She was always tired and things of that nature. So I grew up feeling unloved, and I fell in love by my dad. I fell in love by my mom, and my mom was also mentally abusive too. I'm not going to get into all of that. Story for another day. But that increased my feelings of feeling unloved. And the only person that I knew or believed that loved me was my grandmother. So when I got to be a certain age, I'm gonna say I'm probably about 10 or 11 years old, I told my mom, I don't want to live here anymore. I want to live with Granny. And I want to live with Granny for multiple reasons. At least Granny makes time for me and things of that nature and blah, blah. And my mom fought it at first, but she eventually relented and went ahead and allowed me to go and move in with my grandmother. But by that time, the damage was already done. So I met my dad when I was 16 years old. And when I met him, he made all of these false promises and things of that nature. And he apologized for not being there and this, that, and the third. And only to come back a week later and say, no, more or less, I'm not ready yet. So anyway, progressing forward, after meeting my dad and finding out a partial amount of my truth, um, that hurt and confusion and everything ended up turning into anger. And that anger ended up turning into rage. And when you mix all of those feelings up, you have a cornucopia that's waiting to explode. And that cornucopia was were more or less the seeds for myself. And as far as self sabotage, as I said, I didn't feel loved or anything to that effect. So since I didn't feel loved by my mom or my dad, I would ask, how can other people love me? How can friends love me? How can a girl that I'm interested in love me? In the future, if I'm ever to get married, how can a woman love me and things of that nature? I just didn't feel that I was worthy of love. And I was said, there are only 2 people in this world that love me, and one being my grandma, and one being the other being God. I didn't love myself. And I didn't love myself largely because the whole thing was no one else loved me. So all of this anger and everything created oppositional defiance within me. Oh man, I was a hellion. I got in trouble at school all the time. Um, my grandma and mom would get phone calls from me about me every day. I was acting up or I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. When I was fully capable of doing the work, I just wouldn't do the work because I had no interest in it. It was too easy and I didn't care. I would get fired from jobs because as I said, I was oppositionally defiant. The worst thing to do was to try and tell me what to do. If you told me to do something, I was not going to do it at these jobs or whatever. So go get those carts. No, I'm not going to go get the carts. And I would be quick to tell someone, you're not my dad, not my mom, or anything like that. And I had a history of just being a problem child. So I'm a teenager during this time or whatever. And as I grew older or whatever, went through high school and went through college, I had the same feelings. I was just feeling unloved or whatever. And I was really good for pushing people away. And I pushed people away that really did love me and care about me because I didn't feel that I was worthy of their care or their love or compassion or anything to that effect. And I would do all types of things to make them hate me. And then when someone would tell me that they couldn't put up with me anymore, I would say, "You just proved my point. I knew you would always leave me. That's why I acted the way I did, or whatever. And that's why I didn't let you get close to me, because I knew that you wouldn't love me, or I knew that you wouldn't stick around, and so on and so forth." And blah, blah. Then I also wouldn't allow other people to get close to me, because I felt like anyone that tried to get close to me, they would either dislike me or they would hate me as they got closer to me. And my whole thing was, the whole seed that was in my head was, if my own mother doesn't love me, how can someone else? If my own dad doesn't love me, how can someone else? That was the seed for everything. And because of those seeds, as I said, I didn't love myself. I was suicidal. And the only reason that I did not kill myself was because my grandmother prayed over me daily. And my grandmother also told me that give up on life like would cause me eternal damnation. And with me being a Christian, that's just something that I wasn't willing to face. I was like, no matter how much I hate my life, I am not going to hell, because it's much worse than what I'm experiencing. So fast forward, I get to college and I still had these feelings, and my rage is going deeper and deeper. I'm still continuing down that path. I'm getting in trouble in classes. And as a matter of fact, I ended up almost getting kicked out of college, because I ended up getting into an argument with a teacher. I'm sorry, not a teacher, a professor, about a research problem, and out. And luckily, I had a my adopted father saved me from my own self. And he saved me from my own self by, once he found out about it, he went to bat for me, talked to the professor, convinced him not to take me before the advisory council. And he cut a deal with the professor of saying, if I have to sit with him every day in class, I will do that. This boy has been through a hard road. One thing that he needs to do is he needs to finish. So, dating this girl when I was in college, lady when I was in college, and she told me over and over and over again that I was angry, I was, and that I needed to deal with my internal feelings about my dad and my mother, and that I needed to give them, that I need to look up my dad, because you are self, and you are everyone, everything in your life that you is anger. And this anger that you carry around makes you a self saboteur. You can't see the say that I couldn't find my way out of a paper bag. I couldn't see light if a flashlight was flashed in my eyes or whatever, because you were just so deep within your feelings and everything, and you need to reconcile this stuff. You need to forgive them, forgive yourself, and so on and so forth. I didn't listen. It took her, she and I dated for either 5 or 6 years. And finally, around year 5, she finally got me to go to therapy. And got me to go to therapy. I sat down and I talked to the therapist, open up, open up those mouth. I was, and I was a self saboteur. And because of the anger that I was carrying around, I was sabotaging everything in my life. I was sabotaging friendships, relationships, jobs, anything that you could think of. I literally sabotaged because of my anger. But I was about 20 years old when I went to therapy. Once I got there, it was life changing for me. And I went from seeing the glasses being half empty to being half full.
Okay, so we understand that there are a lot of times when, and you mentioned that too, that emotionally sabotaging your own self. So
Mm-hmm.
not you realize that person's not seeing that they deserve this or they should, because and even as you mentioned, even in your adult life, what happened from a childhood. is still affecting your adult life. And
Absolutely.
when we understand emotional sabotage, self sabotage, we realize that persons sometimes even stay in relationship that has no good for them. So staying in a relationship, it is not good. It is there's no good in it, there's no benefit in it. But
Mhm.
because in your mind, in your own self, you don't see yourself deserving anything better. Oh my God, I tell you. Or you find that persons are investing too much in a relationship, giving too much because maybe they think that this person is much more than me and I am less of an individual based on how um, I was raised, I was grown, and all of these things. And you realize that persons too who self sabotage, they constantly worry about what can go wrong. So I guess Dietrich, you can attest to this that during that phase of your life there was nothing because you mentioned that even when you go to work and persons will tell you to do this, if that's just a button to push, that's the wrong one, that's the wrong button. You just push the wrong button right there to tell people what to do.
That's my trick.
I tell you, and we see that I think we see that quite a lot in our society. But I wonder though, does people really know what is happening to them? You think people really know what's happening to them?
Uh, People tend to not know because there are several different variables that come into play with people not knowing. In some cases, it's because people are in denial, which was me. And then the other case is people are too afraid to tell them because they're afraid of their reaction. Me, yeah, you had to be afraid of my reaction, but only so much. I mean, worst I was going to do was get loud. But for me, it was 100% denial. I did not know that I was angry. And I did not, or I didn't believe that I was angry. I thought that I was normal, or whatever. But it took Melissa to tell me, and it took several years for her to tell me. And eventually, it wasn't as simple as her telling me. It was like I actually had to go to other people. And I went to other people to validate what she was saying. And I went to other friends, I went to family members and everything and said, do you think that I'm angry? Yeah, sure, angry. Do you think that there would be some value towards me going to counseling and therapy? Everyone said yes. So I said, okay. After I've had keep hearing the same thing over and over and over again, I had to recognize everyone can't be telling you the same thing and not be right. If you're the only person that's saying no, you're not angry, and you're the only person that's saying you're not needing counseling, then you must be wrong. It's time for you to do some self-evaluation or whatever, and practice some self-awareness. So I looked into myself. I considered everything that everyone said, and I more or less took I guess you would say, a mental account or a mental diary of everything they said. And I went back and I said, okay, Melissa said this, my aunt said this, my cousin said this, this person said that, and so on and so forth. And I'm basically doing a comparative analysis between everything that's said. And I was like, okay, how many people said no? How many people said yes? So if we're just thinking practically, let's say 10 people said you're angry and you need therapy. 2 people said no, you're not, and they're tripping. Okay, what did the people on this side say? What did the people on this side say? What were their specific points that they highlighted? So let's make a weighted scoring diagram or whatever, see what it comes out to be. That weighted score ended up coming out to be more. You are angry. And I said, okay, fine, I'll go to therapy or whatever. I mean, I got 6 sessions to go for free. Let's go ahead and just try it out. I went to the first therapy session and I talked to the therapist or whatever, and he didn't give me a analysis or anything like that during that first conversation. We just talked, and I just talked and he listened. Session 2, session 3, or whatever comes around, same thing. He just talks and lets me listen. session 4, he starts to insert himself or whatever as we start to talk, and he starts inserting little nuggets or whatever to say, this is how you could have handled that better, and so on and so forth, and blah blah. And as we got down to the nitty gritty, he started to help me uncover things and say, yeah, you have your issues with your mom, yeah, you have your issues with your dad, but the person that you're truly angriest about is you're angriest at yourself, and you blame yourself. And because you're angriest at yourself, you blame yourself. That's why you are how you are. So the path to forgiveness and the journey to forgiveness starts with you. You have to forgive yourself. And this is what he's telling me. Once you forgive yourself, it'll make it easier for everyone else. Once you forgive yourself, then you have to forgive your mom. Then you have to forgive your dad. And then you go on down the line. And the biggest thing that he said that he wanted me to practice is start to have a short memory. Stop taking account for what my mom did on this day, or what this person did on this day, or what that person did on this day, or what that person did on that day. Let it all go. And let the anger refresh itself, or let the infractions refresh themselves anew each day. So on Sunday, okay, he did this, she did that. Don't keep account and don't keep score of what this person did to you. Let it go. Choose to forgive them and walk forward. And then on Monday, same thing. You keep on progressing that way. And as you find yourself progressing that way and practicing having a short memory, you'll find yourself being less and less angry. At the end of the day, you are making your own self angry. And because you're making your own self angry, you are poisoning your own self. You're poisoning your own future. You're poisoning your own present. And you're poisoning your outcomes. And you're poisoning them through this anger and hostility that you carry within yourself. So that was the biggest thing. So after going home and hearing them tell me, you were angry at yourself and you're really sad about yourself, I had to go look at it myself. And I came back and I said, yes, he is absolutely right. I am angry with myself. So after I forgave myself, he was right. It was easier to forgive my mom and forgive everyone else. And then once I was able to forgive, I was able to stop self everything that was everything around me.
Wow, awesome. I think that is it right there. That is it right there. You have to recognize some of the behaviors that are stopping you from becoming your best self, the behaviors that are stopping you from moving forward. And one of the things, as you mentioned, is that you have to be honest with yourself. And I think I've said it a lot of times right here on Wisdom Wednesday, that even when we think of becoming a better version of ourselves, we will not become a better version of ourselves if we don't be honest with ourselves. We must be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves in order for us to become a better version of ourselves. And you hear it. You hear Dietrich sharing it with us tonight that he has to learn to forgive. He had to learn to forgive so that his own self, so that he could forgive others. And a lot of times we self sabotage ourselves because we are not we are we set unrealistic goals for ourselves. Unrealistic goals. We have some weird ideas, some fake stuff in our heads for our own selves that you're wondering where did all of that come from? Where did that come from? That
Enemy,
story,
enemy.
that story in your head is all made up.
Yes,
Oh my God, I tell you. And I guess you can say too that we have to understand our emotions.
absolutely.
Understand our emotion, and you will realize that you said after you started seeing yourself, you said, okay, so many persons cannot. And when you say that, it had me laughing because my mom and I were always, a lot of times we've been saying it. If somebody constantly saying it could not, they could not be so bad. But everybody you come in contact with is saying that you're angry. It's saying that you're off. It's saying, why are you so mean? And it's not true. Something must be going on there. So you
Yes,
gotta be honest with yourself and go check yourself.
absolutely.
Be understand your emotions and confront what is happening. What are the negative things that are happening with you? It is true. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you. So we want to set realistic goals, and we want to stop the constant worrying about what can go wrong.
Absolutely. And if I could share another, this one is related to my daughter. So the other issue came in, me being a glass half empty type person and self saboteur, was when my ex-wife and I separated. I initially felt like children should always be with their mother, especially with them being a little girl. Everything that was in my environment told me that this wasn't true, but I couldn't see it for myself. And I couldn't see it for myself because I still had fish scales on my eyes. I had not yet had my Damascus Road moment. Um, Friends, family members were telling me, don't let her, say my ex-wife, take your daughter or take you guys' daughter. You are her parent. You need to raise her. If she's going to separate and leave, let her go. But keep your daughter. I didn't listen. Everything they said went in one ear and out the other. And and I found out after about a year's time that everyone was right and that I was wrong. And the reason that part of the reason that I didn't initially fight was because I didn't feel like I was capable. Even though I was my daughter's primary caregiver when we were married, I didn't feel like I was capable. I didn't feel like I had the tools and everything that were needed to raise a child or tools to raise a daughter. I didn't know how to do her hair. As I was sharing when we first began, I didn't know anything about playing with dolls and things of that nature. I was just like ill-equipped. Barely knew how to change a diaper or anything to that effect. So it was a struggle for me, but I learned whatever. But again, being a principal caregiver, and I was a principal caregiver largely because my ex-wife, she had postpartum depression after giving birth. So if her having postpartum depression, that put me on the battlefield of having to be the primary caregiver, whatever. So it was trial by fire of having to learn how to raise a kid or whatever. My job had more flexibilities than hers did. So when my daughter was sick or had a doctor's appointment or whatever, I could take off easily or whatever and stay home with her or take her to a doctor's appointment, whereas my wife couldn't. Well, anyway, so this is what facilitated our bond. I couldn't leave a room without my daughter crying. I couldn't leave the house without my daughter crying. Her mom could leave and it was nothing. So I ended up having to teach her how to crawl, how to walk, having to use the potty and all that stuff. And this is all before my ex-wife and I separated. So my daughter and I's bond was like this from the beginning. So anyway, as I said, my self-saboteur nature let my ex-wife walk out the door, and my daughter ended up suffering because of my ignorance, so to speak. So a year went by, and my ex-wife showed me that she was incapable of taking care of our daughter and providing for her at the emotional level that she needed in a day-to-day level. I'm not going to go into too many details because my daughter is listening in and I don't want her to know but so much. But as I said, she wasn't able to take care of her on that at that emotional level, the emotional level, mental level, or anything like that. And my daughter socially regressed as a result of everything. She was on the verge of getting kicked out of daycare because of her behaviors and things of that nature. And everyone was telling me, you need to get your daughter. She does not know what she's doing, and this, that, and the third. And still wasn't listening, going in one ear and out the other. It wasn't until my ex-wife began to tell me out of her own mouth that she didn't know what she was doing and would ask me for help with our daughter that I started listening. It wasn't until my daughter started begging and crying to me and begging me to let her stay with me that I finally opened up my eyes and had my fish scale road moment. Um, so I'm sorry, not fish scale road moment, my Damascus road moment. So one day it was I had gotten her for a weekend and it was Sunday and I had to take her back to her mom. And she cried and screamed. She cried and screamed like I beat the hell out of her. And I had never heard a squealing or a screeching like that before in my life. And it was at that moment where the fish scales fell from my eyes. And I
Mm.
said, hey, I hear you now. And Daddy is sorry that I didn't listen, that I didn't trust myself. And Daddy is going to do what he can to bring you back home. I will do anything to get you home, back to me. Don't tell your mom, but I am going to bring you home. And when I bring you back home, I'm going to bring you back home for good. So I talked to her mom, and I told her mom she was failing. And I said, I've given you a year, and you're not doing good, doing well with her. She's doing horribly. Let me have her for a year, and let's see if I can do any better. And if I can do better, let me keep her. If I do worse, you keep. I'll give her back, and you keep her. My ex-wife initially said she'd think about it, and then she came back and she said, "I'll do it under a condition. I'm not going to share what that condition was." And I was enraged when she gave me that condition. And I said, I'll see you in court. So I took her to court and had all my evidence, had all my ducks in a row, and I won. I ended up getting custody of our daughter. And once I got custody of her, I had to fix her. And I had to fix her by loving on her every day, letting her know, daddy is going to always be there for you no matter what. I had to put her in therapy and everything so that she could deal with her emotional issues or whatever. Um, and I had to pour a lot of love into her. And by pouring all of that love into her, I was able to fix what was broken. And by being able to fix what's broken, my daughter is now a best-selling author, a small business owner, and she's out motivating grown women and trying to help them uh, uh, increase their self-esteem and self-awareness and self-love and things of that nature. And that's all because of me. And that's because, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say because of me. That's because God put it into me that you have to stop self-sabotaging and thinking you're not capable. You are capable of anything that I put on your heart and that I set your mind to. And you are capable because I am going to help you with all things that you need. There is nothing that you need in this life that I am not going to provide for you. Anything you need that is in accordance with my will, I will give you. And so God put the capabilities within me to start to be able to take care of my daughter, but also to recognize within myself that I was more than capable. So as I began to realize that I was more than capable of doing the things that I didn't think that I could do, and particularly raising a girl, the rest of life became easy. So this started my journey towards, or this more or less completed the journey towards the transformation in me and going from seeing the glasses as half empty to seeing them as half full. Everyone told me that a man doesn't go into court and beat a woman when it comes to a custody battle. Well, guess what? I did. And I did because God allowed me to. I did because I didn't rely on my own strength. I prayed for God's strength and that God would allow my daughter to be where she needed to be so that she could be safely taken care of, provided for, and loved, and so on and so forth. And it's been 11 years later, and she and I are still on that journey.
Wow. Oh my God. That is just awesome and profound. And as Blessed and Highly Favored said, that's a standing ovation moment right there. I tell you. And while I look at my notes, I realize that the habit of sabotaging and self sabotaging, what happened is that it's an unconscious thing. The individual, in truth and in fact, really don't, is not aware of the fact that they are stopping themselves, holding back themselves because they are not able to see what is in them and what God wants to bring out of them. And you sit here tonight and you hear Dietrich tell you that the moment those scales fell off his eyes and he started seeing, he was shaken out of the unconscious into the conscious, and now see that, yes, it's in me because whatever God has put on me and has in me, mm-mm-mm, it can come to pass. It's going to come to pass. I don't know who needs to hear that right now. Whatever, before you were even thought of it, before you were even formed. And yes, you may have been through some hard situation, and you can hear tonight that he has, yes, he has also been through it as a child, not feeling love, but God has helped him to pour out every fiber of love into his daughter.
Absolutely. And if I could share some other things too, that's going to really get the room shaking. What God also revealed to me was that my pain had a purpose. I needed to suffer as a child. I needed to be angry as a teenager. I needed to be enraged as a young adult. Because by going through these feelings, I would be able to save someone else. And that someone else was my daughter. And it's like I said to God that no child of mine will ever walk around with the pain and hurt and confusion and everything that I had. I will save her. So as I grew older, I started to forgive my dad more because I said, he did me a favor. Through my pain, I broke the generational curse and I saved the future of my namesake because of the pain that I had. I said, I won't pass it on. I will stop the cycle and I will save someone else. So that certain person that I saved from having those same feelings as myself was my daughter. But not only that, here's the other thing. It cost me $20,000 to fight my ex-wife in court. I'm gonna say it again. 20,000 US dollars to fight her in court. I didn't have $20,000. Very few people do. When I found out the number that I was going to have to pay, I said, God, I will pay anything, but I need your help. I dropped to my knees and I said, if it is meant for me to have custody of her and to raise her, please help me. Put the resources in place for me so that I can fight this battle that you have set before me. Checks started appearing out of nowhere in the mail. I got an insurance settlement from a claim that had been going on for years. I got a refund check from my insurance company. I got a refund check from my college or whatever. Checks just started popping up in the mail like nothing, all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. And when these checks and things started to appear in the mail, I knew for certain that I was definitely operating in God's will and that I was going to win this case no matter what no one else said. Sorry, win this custody battle no matter what anyone else said to me. My pain had a purpose. And once I realized that my pain had a purpose, I was able to forgive my dad even more because I then developed an appreciation for him because without the pain of him being missing, I wouldn't have in me what I needed to raise my daughter. And what I got that allows me to raise my daughter is being raised by my grandmother, being able to see the world through her eyes day in and day out. Once my mom allowed me to go live with her, is what I use to raise my daughter. So the same lessons and love and everything that she poured into me is what I pass on to my daughter. And here's what makes it real easy. My grandmother passed away on November the 4th, 2010. They say when people pass away, they leave a little piece behind them. My grandma, I got her compassionate heart, her compassionate and giving heart. My daughter adopted her eyes. I never knew my daughter had my grandmother's eyes until my grandmother passed away. Once my grandmother passed away, I realized that my daughter had her eyes. Whether she always had them or whether they were inherited in spirit, I don't know. But whenever I look at her, my daughter, I see the person that loved me the most in this world, short of God. And it makes it so much easier for me to love on her because I am loving my grandmother back in return. So I see my grandmother whenever I look into my daughter's eyes.
Wow. I tell you, and if you're just tuning in, we are talking about self sabotage and we are overcoming self defeating behavior. And Mr. Moon is here tonight and he's sharing with us how he has overcome all of that. And one of the steps that you have to do is to make a change. After you confront those negative thoughts, you have to put yourself in the position to make a change. Also, develop a self supporting behavior. Find a source, find somewhere, some person, something that is going to pour into you. And you heard him saying that he went to therapy. And there were days when they were just, the therapist would just listen to him, just have him talking about all that he has gone through. So when you are defeating self-defeating behavior, when you are breaking those barriers, I see Miss Breaking Barrier, breaking your barrier, saying there in the chat that yes, that you are a barrier breaker. And yes, when you are doing that, you have to get to the root, down to the root of your self-sabotaging attitude, right? All right. I want to share something with you. It says, have you ever found yourself working towards an important goal only to spectacular fail because you did something stupid? Or maybe you feel stressed and anxious when you are trying to achieve something important. This, in turn, might make you feel more and more frustrated, discouraged, and angry with yourself. These feelings trap you and keep you from doing what you need to do. These are signs of self sabotage. I tell you, every time that you say, okay, I'm going to get it right now, I'm going to do it, I'm going to go, here come Mr. or Mrs. Self sabotage, defeating feeling saying, oh, remember the last time you did a workout? And remember all the thoughts of who said, oh, you are worthless and you will not become anything. All of those things just start coming back to you. But you got to shut out those negative thoughts and you got to find yourself, surround yourself with people who are going somewhere, who are positive. Because if you surround yourself with negative people, it's only going to make it worse. They're only going to add the fluid to that fire to say, oh, be stressed and frustrated. And as I talk, I realize that we after we grow up, we realize that a natural part of life is that some things will fail in life. But there's just this part of us, and we might can say that the devil working it too, that he brings back those defeating moments to us.
Absolutely.
And then when they come to us, if we are not careful, if we don't know how to shut them out, it puts you in a box,
Yes.
puts you in a dark place, and what happens is that you don't want to try anymore.
Absolutely.
Don't want to try anymore because every time you are to move forward to try something new, you know the potential that is inside you. You want to go, all is coming back. Remember, you failed. And you're going to fail again because that's the pattern of failing. But as Mr. Moon said tonight, you got to break those generational curses. You got to set the pattern straight. You got to line them up. I tell you, you got to reroute them. You got to change course. You got to redirect so that you can become the best version of yourself. I tell you. So as we say, we want to get to the root of what those attitudes are. You know the things that you have failed in the areas of your life that you have failed in. You know the areas that you feel like have not been working out. You know
Mhm.
some of those areas, and you know the thoughts that come back to you. And whenever you are to move forward, you're just being anxious, and you feel stressed, and you feel like frustrated and discouraged because you're saying, all right, it's not going to work out. So, because it didn't work out the last time, it's not going to work. And then you realize that you are the person that is standing in the way of your own success.
Absolutely.
Think about it tonight. Are you that person that is standing in the way of your own growth, of your own success, of your own tomorrow, moving into your destiny, shaping your future, creating a legacy? Are you that one, the person, the individual that is standing in your own way? Think about it tonight. I want you to think about it because we want to break away from those things. We also want to experience cognitive reconstructive behavior. Want to change those mindset. Mindset is everything. We want to work on those that mindset, and we realize and understand that our mindset and our perceptions, they are shaped from socialization. And Mr. Moon can tell you tonight, he has been telling us that even though his mom and his dad wasn't there, he didn't feel their love, grandma was there. And that was a little beam of light that always say, oh, there's hope. There's a light. There's something to look forward to. And even though that grandma is not with him, he found out that his daughter has grandma eyes. So when he looks into her eyes, he can say he still see that light, that beam pulling him and pushing him to go and to be what God has created him to be. I tell you, it's a very interesting topic, and I want you, as we mentioned before, to be honest with yourself. You must be honest with yourself. All right, as we are getting ready to close, I'm going to have Mr. Moon sharing his final with us, what he wants to leave with you this evening. After, if you haven't learned anything, if you haven't been moved as yet as to breaking out of self sabotage and identifying when you are holding back your own self, he's gonna nail the nail into, like they said, nail in the coffin right now. So go ahead, Mr. Moon, and leave your final with us.
So, couple I have a final thought. So, a couple of final thoughts were this. So, God truly does love you. And if I don't remember this poem by heart, but always remember footsteps in the sand. If you guys are unfamiliar with it, Google and look it up. But it basically says something to the effect of, as I was traveling through life, I was walking along the beach, I saw two sets of footprints. But as life got more difficult, I only saw one set of footprints. God, why did you leave me? And why did you, or was there only one set of footprints when you said that you would always be by my side? And the poem closes saying, my child, it's the reason that you only see one set of footsteps is because it was during those hard periods of life where I was carrying you. Now that all ties into the book of Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Uh, they Nebuchadnezzar wanted everyone to bow down and worship his golden image, and Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego said no, they weren't going to do it. They knew one God, and that was all the only person that they were going to worship. So Nebuchadnezzar said that he was going to throw them in the furnace and he was going to set it up, um, uh, set the heat to 7 times hotter than it normally was. 7 means completion. So, guys, remember that. So he threw him into the furnace, and the furnace was so hot that it burnt up the jailers that threw them into the furnace. Threw him into the furnace, and they walked through it. And Nebuchadnezzar, sitting on his throne, said, didn't I throw 3 men in there? And the his guard said, yeah. And he said, well, I see 4. And one of them looks like the Spirit of God or the Spirit of the Lord. And he said, these Shadrach, Abednego, come out. They came out. Now the hair on their bodies was burned. The ropes were singed. The ropes were burned off. They weren't burnt. No harm came to them. And they didn't smell like smoke or anything like that. Nebuchadnezzar said that I now recognize that there's only one true God in the land, and that land is, I'm sorry, that one God is the God of Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. So he said, let's get rid of this golden image, whatever, and everyone is going to worship this God. What does all of this mean? It means that we all face troubling times in life, but God is going to bring us out on the end. For me, myself personally, I suffered from feeling unloved for about 30 years. Because of that, those feelings of unlove, I self sabotage every single relationship. connected to me for almost 30 years. And it wasn't until I went to counseling and started getting help, but counseling alone wasn't enough. I also had to go to God and have God remake me and remake me over. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. The old things have passed away, he is made anew. And so once I finally went to God, that created the completion of creating a new vessel. And once that new vessel was completed, you got the person who's sitting here before you today that's trying to motivate you guys. And he, the biggest thing was always forgetting what's behind you, press forward the high mark. That high mark, that's Ecclesiastes 3-1. I'm sorry, chapter 3, verse 1. So always remember that no matter what, God loves you. He's going to provide for you. He's going to bring you through. But in order for him to bring you through, you have to be willing to forget what's behind you. If you don't forget what's behind you, you're going to be just like Lot's wife, and you're going to turn into a pillar of salt. But if you keep on pressing forward, you will enter the promised land. And that's where I'm at now. I'm in the promised land of overflow, of love, forgiveness, short memory, no longer self sabotaging. I speak life. It's supposed to speak death. I speak life over myself. I speak life over everyone that's listening to this tonight. So go to God. Ask God to build you, to show you who you are. Tell him to be unadulterated. Trust me, he's going to show you. And then after he shows you, be willing to take the steps to be that new and better creature that he needs you to be. And once you do that, you will start to produce outcomes not only in the present, but in the future too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us this evening, Mr. Moon. It was really a privilege to have you. And as you said, I tell you, let go. And I remember I got that revelation once. You have to let go of Egypt so that you can enter into the promised land. You have to let go all the baggage, all the heaviness and the things that easily beset you and wear you down. You have to let it go. And whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are pure, and whatsoever things are of a good report, think on these things. Because God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. He doesn't want you to be anxious for nothing, but in everything, let your requests be known, made known unto him in prayer and supplication. So it's yet another night, and thank you for tuning in to Wisdom Wednesday Live Talk Show. Thank you again, Mr. Moon, for being here, and I wish you all the best. And with your beautiful daughter, continue to be a dad. Thank you for inspiring and let us know that there are still good people in the world, good fathers that are striving and thriving to be and to become a better version of themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you again. As we about to close, you know what we close with. We close with our relaxation technique. So get yourself relaxed in a relaxed position. Close your eyes, and you are going to inhale and exhale. When you inhale, you are going to hold, bring your arms above your head. You're going to hold that breath in your chest, hold it until you feel it, and then you are going to softly exhale through your mouth. Are you ready? One, two, three. So when you inhale, you take those arms with you. One, two, three. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One last time, and you're going to let it all out. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the evening. Thanks for tuning in and for joining in. Remember to subscribe and remember to share with your friends and your family. And see you next week at 7 p.m. for Wisdom Wednesday Live talk show. Have yourself a blessed night. Bye bye. Thank you again, Mr. Moon. Bye bye.